All right. Thanks everybody for joining us tonight for the City of Courtenay's January 11th, 2021 regular council meeting. Happy New Year. It's our first meeting of the year. I'd like to start by respectfully acknowledging that we are gathering and Zooming on the unceded traditional territory of the Komox First Nation, and that due to the coronavirus COVID-19 emergency, the City of Courtenay, with authority of Ministerial Order M192, Local Government Meetings and Bylaw Processes, COVID-19 Order Number 3, implemented changes to its open council meetings. In the interest of public health and safety, and in accordance with Section 3.1 of Ministerial Order Number 3, M192, in-person attendance by members of the public at council meetings will not be permitted until further notice. Council meetings are presided over by the mayor or acting mayor, with electronic participation by council and staff via live web streaming. And with that, I do just want to acknowledge on the weekend we did get a report of, I think, a fairly heinous activity or incident, and I really just want to acknowledge that. I'll be talking to our police chief regarding that. I've spoken with the parent of the youth that was involved, and you know, I just want to make sure that everybody knows that, and I think I'm pretty sure I talk on behalf of council here, that violence, and especially racially motivated violence and racism, is just not acceptable, not tolerated in our community. And it really saddens me to see and hear that things like that are happening. So, and with that, we'll move into the adoption of our minutes.
Second.
Excellent. Are there any errors or omissions in our minutes? Councillor Hillian.
Thank you, Mayor. Not an error or omission, but more in the line of business arising. And my apologies for staff for not notifying that I would like to ask about this. I just wonder if we could get a quick update on the resolution that was passed in relation to working with the Homelessness Coalition on the possibility of some expanded shelter beds using city facilities.
Certainly, I can update council. We're actually going to be speaking about that in camera tonight. It's an agenda item now that Kate O'Connell is back from vacation. She's going to speak to it.
Thank you.
Excellent. And any other errors, omissions, or corrections for the minutes from December 21st? And seeing none, I'll accept them as received unanimously by council. Any introductions of late items? I haven't heard of anything, so I'm assuming we're good. I don't see anybody. I did see Mano waving his hand a little while ago, but I think he may have just been waving at somebody going by his car. We'll get into no delegation staff presentations. So we do have one for zoning amendment bylaw number 3010. If someone would like to move that.
I can move the recommendation, Mayor. Is that what you're looking for?
That'd be great. Thanks.
I'll move that based on today's staff report, zoning amendment bylaw number 3010, an updated proposal for storefront cannabis retailer at 444 Lerwick Road. Council approve option 1 and amend zoning amendment bylaw number 3010 to include unit 301 in the area where the storefront cannabis retailer is permitted, and that council directs staff to schedule and advertise a statutory public hearing with respect to the above referenced bylaw.
I second that.
Excellent. And with that, I'll pass it over to staff. Trevor Cushman.
Thank you, Mayor. With this, I'll pass this to Matthew Fitzgerald to summarize the report and take any questions that council may have.
Thank you. Through CAO to Mayor and Council. So the applicant is proposing a storefront cannabis retailer at the Crown Isle Shopping Center. Council will remember that this proposal originally came to them in October of last year, and they gave the bylaw first and second reading. Originally, the applicant proposed to lease 1 unit. However, in December, they came back with the revised proposal to lease a 2nd unit, which would then be amalgamated to form 1 business. As a result, we've received a new referral from the LCRB, and the zoning bylaw is proposed to be updated to coincide with that. So staff are recommending that the bylaws is updated to reflect the modified proposal and that a public hearing is scheduled. I'll take any questions.
Excellent. Thanks very much. And if I recall, the major change was to give more room for staff, especially sort of in light of COVID-19 and actually just having space for staff to have lunch, et cetera. And with that, I will pass it over to Councillor Hillian.
Thank you, Mayor. I have no problem with the amended application, and I'm in favor of it going to public hearing. But I would like to clarify with staff. There is a note in the report indicating that part of their plan is to remain open on Christmas Day. I wonder if staff have heard anything from the proponent indicating that perhaps that's not their plan. I've certainly expressed my view that despite the fact we live in a pluralistic and multicultural society, it's still good to give staff time off on Christmas Day to spend with their families, and I really don't see any need for that inclusion in the bylaw.
Thanks for the question through the CAO to Mayor and Council. So actually today the applicant did email us and advised that despite that being in the report, they've changed the proposal, so the business won't be open on Christmas Day.
Thanks very much.
Excellent. Thanks. Great question. I don't see any other questions or comments at this moment in time, so I'll start polling council, starting with Councillor Cole-Hamilton.
In favor.
Councillor Frisch.
In favor.
Councillor Hillian.
In favor.
Councillor McCollum.
In favor.
Councillor Morin.
In favor.
Excellent. And Councillor Theos.
Favor.
Excellent. I'm in favor as well. So that's unanimous. Excellent. And moving right along, next we have reports and updates from council. I'm not sure if anybody has any. I know it's the new year, but I don't think a whole lot was going on over the holidays. But did anybody have anything of importance they'd like to share? And I don't see anybody putting up their hands, so we'll move right along to resolutions of council, starting with an in-camera meeting.
I'm happy to read this if you like, Mayor.
Sure, that'd be great.
Move that a special in-camera meeting closed to the public will be held January 11th, 2021 at the conclusion of the regular council meeting pursuant to the following subsections of the community charter. 91C, labor relations and other employee relations. 91E, the acquisition, disposition, or expropriation of land or improvements if the council considers that disclosure could reasonably be expected to harm the interests of the municipality. 91I, the receipt of advice that is subject to solicitor-client privilege, including communications necessary for that purpose. And 91K, negotiations and related discussions respecting the proposed provision of a municipal service that are at their preliminary stages, and then the view of council could reasonably be expected to harm the interests of the municipality if they were held in public.
Seconded.
Excellent. And any questions or comments? And I'll poll council again, starting with Councillor Cole-Hamilton.
In favor.
Councillor Frisch.
In favor.
Councillor McCollum.
In favor.
Councillor Morin.
In favor.
Councillor Theos.
Favor.
And I'm in favor as well. Excellent.
You missed me, Mr. Mayor, but I'm in favor.
Thank you, Councillor Hillian. Sorry about that. I've got my list in a different spot, so sorry for skipping over you. I'll try to be a little more slow next time. All right. Next we have. Oh, and I'm in favor as well, if I didn't say so. So that's unanimous. And next we have Councillor Cole-Hamilton's resolution.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. This is following up on something that was brought up in the last council meeting of 2020, and following on from your remarks at the opening, it's sadly even more relevant given what happened for the past weekend. And yeah, so I'll just go ahead and read the resolution. Whereas recent events remind us of the presence of bullying, harassment, and discrimination in our community, and whereas the City of Courtenay has core values that it strives to uphold, including people matter and to be accountable, and it seeks to lead by example, and whereas the Mayor and Council participate in a strategic planning session each year, be it resolved that the Mayor and Council include a focus on equity and inclusion in our strategic planning for 2021.
Second.
Excellent. Thanks very much, Councillor Cole Hamilton. Did you want to speak to the motion?
I think the motion speaks for itself, and I think what I said back in December really helped set the context, and sadly there's even more context now.
Excellent. Thanks so much for bringing that forward. Does anybody else have any comments they'd like to make? Councillor Theos.
Thank you, Mayor. I was wondering about the whereas with the in regards to the one that that states that in recent events remind us of the presence of bullying, harassment, and discrimination in our community. I think that that particular whereas could be a concern, possibly if there is any ongoing police investigation. I think the rest of the motion, you know, is states basically what the principles are that we want to bring forward, but I wouldn't want us to be in a position where we would add anything that could cause any interference with ongoing investigation of any kind.
Yeah, and I'll maybe let Councillor Cole Hamilton speak to this, because I don't think it's really speaking to any necessarily a specific thing, but Councillor Cole Hamilton, I'll pass it over to you.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor, and thanks, Councillor Theos. I appreciate your concern there. I think the resolution was left purposefully non-specific so as to allow people who require privacy or any police investigations that are taking place to occur without any of this interfering in any way. I think it helps to move us forward as a city community and to help get our house in order, but it's not meant to impede anything that is in progress at this time. And I don't think, given the wording, that it would have that effect.
All right. Okay, thanks very much. And Councillor Moore.
Great, thank you, Mayor. Hopefully this resolution will go forward. I think it's a great start to looking at some of what we've seen over the last few months. I think it's always important to comment on this whenever we have the opportunity, because this is an ongoing problem in our community and throughout the larger community, and is especially amplified with COVID. I know there was another mayor yesterday, I believe, or a couple days ago on the island that spoke out about some of the racial tension and COVID and you know, racist comments and things being directed at First Nations communities. And that's one example. I mean, there are many. There was the example I brought up in Dawson, city of Dawson, that happened in December. There are just ongoing incidents of this, and I think we need to make a clear stand, and I'm happy that we're going to address it in strategic planning, and I really hope that we can send the message clearly to folks that this kind of behavior is not welcome in our community. And frankly, in my opinion, people who are making these attacks or saying these comments are not welcome, and it needs to stop. I think with COVID, we've really seen an amplification of this kind of behavior, and it's certainly events down south. They do trickle north, and I think that's also a big piece of this. But we need to take a stand, and I'm happy to see this resolution, and I thank Councillor Cole Hamilton for bringing it forward. Thank you.
Excellent. Thanks, Councillor Moore. And I think, you know, one of the I think goals as well is to help people feel more empowered so they can report these incidents and know that their community is behind them, because I think that's one of the other challenges is that a lot of these are sort of underreported, and that in and of itself is a challenge along the way. Councillor Hillian.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. I'm happy to support the resolution and agree that it is important that Council take a stand on such issues. The resolution, though, primarily is asking us to address this in terms of our own internal work as a city. And that's equally important if, as the resolution states, we want to lead by example. But I think it's also important to note that strategic planning will address a whole range of issues, including sewer, water, roads, taxes, all the issues that the city deals with. And it will include a focus on this particular issue. So just so that the public is aware that we continue to deal with the whole range of issues faced by a modern and growing city. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Hillian. And I think, one of the things that, again, our traditional things of water and sewer and roads, as you mentioned, is something that is obviously of high importance, and by statute and regulations, we have to make sure that we're maintaining those things. But I think, as has been seen, there's a larger social focus that councils are taking now, whether that has to do with housing or working with our ministries around addictions and mental illness. And in fact, on my last conference call with the minister, Josie Osborne, probably I would say the vast majority of comments were around addictions, around mental illness, around housing, those kinds of things, because it is something that municipalities across the province are prioritizing. And although we don't necessarily have the funding to make those things happen, we're certainly want to let the province know that we're a willing partner and that we're willing to lead and work with them to address these issues. So, Councillor Frisch.
Yeah, thanks, Mayor, and thank you, Councillor Cole-Hamilton, for bringing the motion forward. I think that this will probably come forward as more of a lens, and I think it'll be interesting to see what sort of policies or what changes we can make to any of our policies that can affect, in a positive way, of course, bullying, harassment, and discrimination in our community. I think that's the way we should look at this moving forward, and really assess how we can be a leader, as you've all mentioned before, of course, through our policies to make to affect change in our community. So thank you.
Excellent. And I don't see any further questions or comments. So with that, I will poll council, starting with Councillor Cole-Hamilton and Councillor Frisch.
In favor.
Councillor Hillian.
In favor.
Councillor McCollum.
In favor.
Councillor Morin.
In favor.
Councillor Theos.
Favor.
Excellent, and I'm in favor as well. And again, thanks again, Councillor Cole-Hamilton, for bringing this forward. And that is unanimous. Next, we have new business. We have a letter of request from the Komox Valley Regional Emergency Operations Center.
Move the recommendation. The resolution that, do you want me to read that out, Mayor?
It may be worthwhile to read it out just for those that are watching.
Sure. The recommendation is that the Mayor of Courtenay be appointed to the Comox Valley's Regional Emergency Operations Policy Center Policy Group in response to the ongoing COVID-19 pandemic, and further, that the policy group be tasked with providing leadership and strategic direction and decision-making on Emergency Operations Center policy matters, and act as the key communications liaison point between senior government and health officials and the local Emergency Operations Center and local jurisdictions.
Second that.
Excellent. And Trevor Krishna, did you want to speak to this?
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. Just quickly, I think that COVID has taught us many things, one of which is to be as prepared as possible, especially considering how quickly the health orders roll out. They can roll out daily, sometimes even hourly. So what this policy group does is it establishes the mayor and the chair of each jurisdiction as the main liaison up front. And it's something that's done even without an ELC activation. The policy group establishment was a key recommendation of the after action plan, which was a review by the emergency preparedness folks and all the CAOs, and it was a consensus. I will also add that the other jurisdictions have already done this as well. So staff are completely supportive of this.
Fantastic. Thanks very much. And with that, I don't see any further questions or comments. So I'll poll council, starting with Councillor Cole-Hamilton.
In favor.
Councillor Frisch.
In favor.
Councillor Hillian.
In favor.
Councillor McCollum.
In favor.
Councillor Morin.
In favor.
Councillor Theos.
I'm in favor.
And I'm in favor as well. Excellent. Thanks. Another unanimous one. And next we have the Comox Valley Airport Commission reappointment.
Mr. Mayor, I'll move that City of Courtenay support the reappointment of Mr. Richard Clark to the Comox Airport Commission.
All right, it's been first and seconded. I don't know that we need any further information. I think it's a pretty standard appointment, and Mr. Clark's done a pretty good job. I get to talk with him on a regular basis, and I think the Airport Commission, again, is pretty happy with him. Councillor Hilling, did you want to speak to this?
Just to add, Mr. Mayor, for anybody watching in, that Mr. Clark has served on the Airport Commission for a number of years, and the request is that he continue for another year, which would be his final. Mr. Clark's well known in the community. He's also active in the Coalition to End Homelessness, and it's a good example of somebody who brings his business acumen and his compassionate nature together for the benefit of the city in a number of different aspects.
Excellent. Thanks for that. And with that, we'll poll council, starting with Councillor Cole Hamilton.
In favor?
Councillor Frisch.
In favor.
Councillor Hillian.
In favor.
Councillor McCollum.
In favor.
Councillor Morin.
In favor.
Councillor Theos.
Favor.
And I'm in favor as well. Excellent. And that brings us to bylaws. So we have a few for third reading.
Mayor, I'm happy to move that zoning amendment bylaw number 2977-2020 for 2355 Mansfield Drive, a bylaw to rezone property from commercial 2 to comprehensive development zone 28, past third reading.
Second.
Excellent.
Councillor Hillian.
Thank you, Mayor. The public hearing brought forth a number of people who live nearby who expressed their primary concern about this proposed development as the impact it will have on traffic in the area. And I wanted to make 2 points. First of all, a number of people spoke about the difficulty turning left off Mansfield Drive onto Cliff Avenue. And they also spoke about the difficulty turning left onto Mansfield Drive from Cliff Avenue. I wonder if staff have any comments on what we might do to alleviate that problem. I also note that having worked in that area for a number of years, I found that if you went down to the other end of Mansfield Drive, either to exit or enter, you had a considerably easier time with far less traffic and more gaps. So I'm just wondering if staff might be able to comment on what we could do as a community to alleviate that growing traffic concern, both for vehicles turning, but the other one was for pedestrians crossing the road to go from the area of Mansfield adjacent to the ocean across to where the shops and malls and such are.
Thanks, Councillor Hillian. Trevor Krishner, would you like to respond?
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. That's a great question, Councillor. I know that Public Works and Engineering are actively engaging with the Ministry of Transportation regarding both those issues. And that's what I can offer for now. I know that we'll probably have our monthly meeting at the last week of January with the ministry, and we can report back after that. But I will pass this over to either Ian or Matt to add if they have anything else.
Thanks very much. Just very quickly, staff had a very high level discussion with the ministry, in particular related to a pedestrian crossing. And the comment that came back was they wouldn't support just a pedestrian flasher crosswalk. They would like to see a full intersection designed. So as Mr. Kushner said, I think follow-up discussion with the ministry and then looking at what are the possibilities of that in the future. I will note that while it may be easier today at one end of that intersection, I think over the next decade as the city continues to grow, even that intersection will become more problematic. So long-term solution is something I think the city needs to look towards.
Excellent, thanks for that. And did you want to have a follow-up, Councillor Hillian?
Yes, Mr. Mayor. I can't recall what amenity contributions were considered in as part of this application, but I wonder if there is any consideration on the part of staff to look at the possibility of a raised crossing of Cliff Avenue and working with the Ministry of Transportation to perhaps get an elevated walkway that would. I note that we don't not only have development at this end, but we have a new seniors complex down towards the other end, and essentially we have the same issue throughout that entire stretch.
I can jump in there for the amenity contribution part of it. So what's currently offered as part of this rezoning is contributions specified in the OCP to both the Parks and Recreation Fund as well as the Affordable Housing Fund at the amounts specified. And then in addition to that, there are off-site improvements along Mansfield to both the crosswalk, adding flashers to the crosswalk, as well as changes to the speed limit, or reducing it to 30 kilometers an hour. So all of those would be requirements of the applicant to implement. Regarding crossing of Cliff, maybe Ian has more on this, but I think the cost of a raised crosswalk or a bridge over pedestrian bridge over Cliff Avenue would be more than this 30-unit development could sustain. But maybe that's something we want to look forward to and develop policy towards crossing somewhere in this stretch. And as developments come forward, they can contribute to that overall facility that everyone would benefit from.
Mayor, maybe if I could jump in and add just quickly that the pedestrian overpass is certainly an option that we will be discussing with the ministry staff. We can report back.
Excellent. No, that sounds good. And I know we have had discussions with them up on Ryan Road by Couch and in North Island College on a similar kind of conversation, and the costs were fairly high. Councillor Hilling, did you have a follow-up?
I do. I'll yield to Councillor McCollum, though, prior to my follow-up. Thanks, Mayor.
Okay, Councillor McCollum.
Thanks, Mayor. Yeah, I just had similar commentary around the same issue, that the bulk of the concerns that we heard in regards to the development were mainly to do with traffic and specifically to crossing Cliff. I certainly wouldn't be opposed to seeing an overpass as an option down the road, but with or without an overpass, there still needs to be a better crossing at street level. At the end of, or at the north end of Mansfield, directly across it connects with our Fitzgerald bike lanes, and I think it's pretty unrealistic to expect that cyclists to go up and down a narrow walkway shared with seniors and pedestrians and strollers. So I think whatever solutions we come up with is probably going to need some improvements at street level, and I would hope those could happen sooner than an overpass. So I just wanted to put my plug in for prioritizing that, as it's something that we've heard about fairly continuously in the 2 years that I've been on council. But other than that, I'm supportive of the bylaw, or of the rezoning, I should say. Thanks.
Thanks very much. And back to you, Councillor Hilling.
Thanks, Mayor. The other issue that came up was the building height and its impact on viewscapes for people who already live there. And I'm wondering from planning staff, if we have any policy in relation to protecting views. I speak as somebody who once purchased a house that had a great view, only to have a house go up a few months later that totally blocked it. But I'm wondering if we do have any policy, or if that's something that's taken into account when we look at the form and character of a building and we approve the development, what the impact is on existing views in the area.
Yeah, thanks for the question. So the development permit guidelines do have language that speak to preservation of views. For this particular site, it's a 5-story building, but even a 2-story building or a 1-story building would have some impact on views of the condos on the north side of of Mansfield that we heard about during the public hearing. So what we look to do is try and mitigate that, and I think that's done in this proposal by making the building as narrow as possible. But even in that instance, it will have impact on some people's views, specifically if they're looking south down towards the ocean.
Thank you. And without being flippant about it, I suppose they do have the advantage of being able to easily walk the air park and take the views in from ground level. But I don't want to minimize the concerns. I know they are important to the people who brought them up. So it's good to know that it's at least a consideration in planning. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Hillian and Councillor Theos.
Thank you, Mayor. Yeah, no, those points were points I was thinking about also. And another point along with the access and traffic and with the views, that area has had some concern about noise and about the possible disruption of their ongoing day-to-day activities and comfort of home through the potential noise level, and with the construction of a new project would also come obviously dust and other type of things that could be bothersome to the neighbors and to the businesses nearby. What do we have in place to ensure that noise and possibly dust created by the construction and other items that could cause disruption will not occur?
I can take a stab at that one. So through the building permit process, we would the building permit conditions would speak to any sort of adverse effects on neighboring properties, as well as things like the noise bylaw or noise bylaws that we have. There is reasonable amounts of construction noise.
All right.
Okay, thank you.
Excellent. All right. Well, I think at this point we've had a good discussion. Again, thanks for bringing up those points, councillors, and I think it is like many of these. There's lots of things to contemplate. And with that, I will poll council, starting with Councillor Cole-Hamilton.
In favor.
Councillor Frisch.
In favor?
Councillor Hillian.
In favor.
Councillor McCullum.
In favor.
Councillor Morin.
In favor.
Councillor Theos.
In favor.
And I'm in favor as well. Next, we have the zoning amendment bylaw for 4070 Fraser Road.
Happy to move this one, Mayor. I'll move that zoning amendment bylaw number 2989/2020 for 4070 Fraser Road, which is a bylaw to amend zoning bylaw 2500/2007 to rezone property from rural 8 to comprehensive development zone 21 and public use and assembly 2 zone, and amend schedule number 8 zoning map to facilitate a 12-lot subdivision and city parkland. That passed third reading.
All right, that's been seconded. Are there any questions or comments regarding this zoning amendment bylaw? Councillor Hillian.
Thank you, Mayor. We have several letters that were received in relation to the public hearing, and although nobody spoke at the public hearing on this matter, the issues they raise are similar in that they speak to the impact on Millard Creek and the rural nature of the area. And I'm just wondering, given the length of time it's been since we addressed this development, if staff could just speak roughly to the nature of this development and what their sense is of the impact both on the creek and on the rural nature of that area.
Yeah, thanks for the question, through CEO to the Mayor and Council. So in terms of the impact on the creek, in this particular case, the applicant has proposed a 30-meter setback from the creek. This is over and above what would otherwise be required through the development process, which would probably come in at 20 meters or 15 meters. So they've preserved more land around the creek than they would otherwise have to. And maybe Ian can speak to this in greater detail, but I believe there's correspondence from one of the stewardship groups supporting this giving support to this strategy. With regard to the rural character, this proposal is within the local area plan. This local area plan envisions this as a suburban style of development, and this happens to be on the edge of it, but it has the benefit of the buffer established by the creek, as well as a buffer along the south edge to buffer it from the agricultural land to the south. So I think from those two perspectives, it fits very well with the surrounding neighborhood.
If I could just add quickly 2 comments. One related to the rural character. I think because its principal access is through the existing Buckstone development, even though, as Mr. Fitzgerald indicated, it is in a master plan neighborhood in the official community plan. Having that access come through the existing urban area instead of adding new sort of urban character right onto Fraser helps to minimize that. And additionally, just comments, and we mentioned this, I believe, quite some time ago at first and second reading, that it had been referred to the Millard-Piercy streamkeepers, who didn't have opposition, and do note that they indicate they were supportive of the 30-meter setback, as well as the retention of trees that are outside of the development footprint. And that was something that they provided both through the referral process and through their annual general meeting comments.
Excellent. Thanks very much. Councillor Morin.
Great, thanks, Mayor. I just wondered if you could speak, if staff could speak to the kind of pedestrian situation in that area, because what I heard from residents also is that some of the amenities that they had been expecting along Fraser Road for walking, etc., better, safer, a safer area was also a concern for them, in terms of, even though it's, seems like a small subdivision, that it would increase the traffic, and Fraser Road is already a very narrow, with no shoulder to walk on. So I had thought that there were going to be some improvements in that area, and I just wondered if you could speak to that. Thanks.
Yeah, I guess through CAO to the Mayor and Council. So as part of this proposal, there wouldn't be any improvements made to Fraser Road in terms of pedestrian connections or sidewalks or anything like that. But I'm not sure if other staff have any information on kind of an overall city project or any future plans along Fraser. Pass it over.
Yeah, thanks. I can, excuse me, jump in. There's no immediate plans to do any improvements on Fraser Road. What the intent always was in that neighborhood through the local area planning process was to put pedestrian connections down from the Buckstone and Komox Logging Road area down through the Beechwood. And then that will connect down the Beechwood to the foreshore where the walkway was just done. So there's a couple different phases that have happened there. Most recently is the phase from Sandpiper to Beechwood has just been completed, as well as, I guess it was earlier last year, connection from Buckstone down to Beechwood. So that link is there. Long-term, there'd need to be a crossing of the highway, and then completion of the link between the highway along Beechwood down to the foreshore walkway. And that's been intended to be the principal sort of pedestrian recreation access through that area.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. And, oh, I think I clicked the wrong button there. Councillor Theos.
Thanks, Mayor.
Like Councillor Hillian, I've clicked your button. Sorry, my screen was bouncing around. But over to you, Councillor Theos.
Okay, great. Thank you very much. As that area continues to densify with as is much of the Courtenay area, my question is in regards to the area there where the Buckstone's developing. There's also Azalea just was developed in the last few years, and the Newport Village also is continuing to develop into its next phase. Do we have a sense of communication with the school system of how much space there is available in the schools in the area to handle more families coming into that area and more growth in that regard, and children potentially packing into the schools there, and also whether there was a bus route or whatnot in that area is another question.
Through CAO to Mayor and Council. So we meet with the school board officials quarterly and give an overview of any new proposals, especially big, larger proposals that may impact school capacity. And then they're able to plan accordingly. I believe they're also involved in, and maybe Ian can speak more to this, in the OCP process and looking at sort of a overall community, the future of the community and where growth will occur.
Just quickly, I'll add that we are through the OCP process meeting, in particular with the board. I think staff, haven't looked at my calendar, it's this week or next week. We'll be attending the board meeting to present on the OCP. We do also refer individual applications to school district staff for comment. And then occasionally when they do their catchment analysis, and the most recent one I think must have been in 2018, Mr. Fitzgerald and I met with school district staff, discussed developments. That's where they looked at their catchment boundaries and adjustments and what schools are at capacity and may need additions.
Thank you, gentlemen.
All right, thanks. And Councillor Hillian.
Thanks, Mayor. I wonder if staff could remind us of the amenity contributions. I appreciate Mr. Buck's comments about how the walkway will eventually connect. But I believe there's also a park dedication among the amenities that this project would bring about.
Thanks for the question. So this project would be contributing amenities to both the Parks and Recreation Fund as well as the Affordable Housing Fund. And then there is park dedication as well that would be part of the rezoning.
Thanks. Mr. Mayor, I do find myself taken with many of the points raised by Ann Bayliss in her letter to council, speaking about the rural values in the area and the impact of the ridge on residents. I do regret that the ridge has perhaps not been the ideal model development in terms of impact on the neighborhood that people might have wanted to see. But on balance, I think that I'm going to support this particular project. It seems reasonably well thought out, and it seems to minimize environmental impact while also contributing to the amenities that the community will benefit from. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Hillian. And I don't see any other further hands. I thought I saw another one, but I think we've had a pretty fulsome discussion, and again, thanks to staff for getting those public hearings underway, and so we can contemplate these. And with that, we'll poll council, starting with Councillor Cole-Hamilton.
In favor.
Councillor Frisch.
In favor.
Councillor Hillian.
In favor.
Councillor McCullum.
In favor.
Councillor Warren.
In favor.
Councillor Theos.
Favor.
And I'm in favor as well. Excellent. And next we have the zoning amendment bylaw for home occupation regulations, and maybe I'll hand this over to Councillor Morin. I believe you brought that forward to council originally.
Yeah, I will find it here. Sorry.
Should have warned you.
Oh my goodness, I have too many windows open here. If someone's quicker than me, go for
I
it.
can do it if you like.
And I see
Thank you.
Councillor
Thank you.
McCollum, I think, was waving her hand too. So, Councillor McCollum, do you want to try or?
Sure. Sorry, I thought someone spoke before me there. I will read this. I'll move that zoning amendment bylaw number 3024-2020, home occupation regulations, a bylaw to amend zoning amendment bylaw number 2500, 2007, amending division 6, general regulations, part 3, home occupation regulations, pass third reading.
I'll second it. Thanks.
But thank you very much, Councillor Morin, for bringing it forward. I do want to just acknowledge, I think this is really something that our council as a whole really was excited to see as a way for us to really help those occupations that are working out of their homes, and how Courtenay really wasn't being as, I guess, as friendly, for lack of a better term, as some of the other municipalities. So I'm really happy to see this come forward so that we're able to really adjust. And, obviously COVID has impacted a lot of people, but I think this is something that's going to benefit our community far beyond COVID. So thanks again. Councillor Hillian.
Thank you, Mayor. All the people who spoke at the public hearing were supportive of this. But I do want to acknowledge that we had a fairly significant representation earlier on when this resolution was first brought forward from a business person who expressed concerns about both the amount of effort and cost that it took for her to establish a business in a commercial area, and a worry about perhaps people having an unfair advantage. I think that there's no getting away from the fact that some people find it more to their liking to operate commercially, whereas some people, it makes sense for them in terms of childcare and other responsibilities to operate out of their home. And when that can be done in a way that doesn't adversely impact the neighborhood, I don't see any reason why we should prevent it. And as such, I'm happy to support this resolution. Thank you.
Thanks very much. And Councillor Morin.
Great. Thank you, Mayor. I just had a question for staff for clarification. I think I understand it correctly, but I have had some questions around the description of allowing offices general, which is fairly general, of a description. My understanding is that would include many of the businesses that have spoken up in support of this, such as counselors, massage therapists, people like that. And I'm also understand that it would include dog grooming as well, and also acupuncturists and all that. So I wondered if you could just clarify that is the case, that those are allowable, and maybe point out what wouldn't be allowed if it's not maybe a few examples of what the change is from the previous, in terms of if there's anything. I know we're adding, but we haven't taken anything away, I guess is my question. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for the question through CAO to Mayor and Council. So you're correct. Things like hairdressing, massage therapy, acupuncture, those would be permitted. They'd be classified as a personal service. So that's been added as a home-based business that would be permitted. Other uses that are like an accountant or consultant would fit under the office use, which is being generalized. And now also includes office for or dog groomer, which is how that's being fit into this new bylaw. So overall, the changes make home-based businesses much more, or there's much more options for home-based businesses. So I don't have specific examples, but what I would say is things that wouldn't be permitted would be things that have an adverse effect on the neighborhood. Maybe things like that involve lots of storage or outdoor storage or noise or odor, things like that. So the overall character through this bylaw, the overall character of the neighborhood is protected, while allowing for some businesses to establish at a limited scale.
Right. And then just a quick follow-up. It's my understanding that you did reach out to, or you did take a look at, obviously, bylaws in other areas. And although you may not have specifically asked whether there had been any issues or concerns with a more expanded list of businesses, but it's my understanding that other communities have not seen an adverse effect to having a more expanded list of allowable occupations. Would that be fair to say?
Yeah, that's my understanding as well. A lot of these uses in other communities have been established, or a lot of the home-based businesses have been allowed for a much longer time. And so, yeah, I'm not aware of any concerns or complaints against any of them.
That's great. Thank you very much.
Excellent. That's great. Thanks for the questions. And yeah, getting that alignment, I think, is one of the things that, makes good sense. And again, we're not blazing trails here. We're really looking to what other municipalities have already done. So it's great to see that we're moving forward on it. And Councillor Theos. You may want to unmute yourself. I know that was the quote for 2020, but it'll probably continue.
That's going to help. Okay, thanks, Mayor. That was good. Sorry, thought I was already unmuted. No, I appreciate Councillor Morin bringing this forward. It's definitely going to help out a handful of people that are running these smaller businesses that are home-based businesses, and give them a chance to excel and succeed, and as was mentioned earlier, be there for their children if they need to be, and household needs. So it does make a lot of sense, and it does. Going back to Councillor Hillian's comments, there is the feeling out there with small business, especially businesses that are from these professionals that are running these type of offices, like chiropractors and the professionals such as physiotherapy and many of these other small type of businesses that have said for many years, along with other small businesses, is that they don't feel that they're taking up more of the community's needs than just the household is taking up the needs, whether it's for traffic or parking or any other kind of issues related to households or small businesses. And this has been comments that I've heard for year after year from small business people that are saying, they're just making it by, and they don't understand why they pay 3.5 times what an average household pays when they're not using more services than the average household, in their opinions. And I think this is just part of that nature.
All right. Well, good fulsome discussion. With that, I will poll council, starting with Councillor Cole-Hamilton.
In favor.
Councillor Frisch.
I'm in favor.
Councillor Hillian.
In favor.
Councillor McCollum.
In favor.
Councillor Morin.
In favor.
Councillor Theos.
In favor.
And I'm in favor as well. All right, that was for third reading and for final adoption.
Mayor, I'll move the zoning amendment bylaw number 3024-2020, home occupation regulations, a bylaw to amend zoning amendment bylaw number 2500-2007, amending division 6 general regulations part 3 home occupation regulations, be finally adopted.
Second.
Excellent. And we've just discussed this, so unless there's any further comments, I'll poll council, starting with Councillor Cole-Hamilton.
In favor.
Councillor Frisch,
In favor?
Councillor Hillian,
In favor.
Councillor McCollum,
In favor.
Councillor Moran,
In favor.
Councillor Theos,
In favor.
and I'm in favor as well. And again, thanks to Councillor Moran for bringing this this forward. I think it's certainly a step forward in terms of small to micro businesses in the Komox Valley, but bringing that alignment for Courtenay to make sure that our residents have the ability to do the same things that people can do beyond. One thing I was just going to mention, this a bit of a report thing. There was some issues in terms of fires in back alleys and stuff like that. And so I did pass that on to Councillor Cole Hamilton to take to the BIA last week. And so we're moving forward with the RCMP to do a little bit more training with the business owners at the BIA. We're going to try to do something within the next few weeks, but then try to actually every October have the RCMP work with them so that if they're just to retrain and sort of refamiliarize people with what the process is if people are lighting fires in back alleys and any kind of nuisance behavior, any issues that are happening. And I think it's kind of in alignment with what our council wants to see in terms of having a vibrant and safe community. So but thanks very much, Councillor Cole Hamilton, for having that conversation with them. And with that, we have
Adjournment.
Second.
all those in favor. Anybody opposed? Thanks, everybody. Have a great night. Happy New Year.